suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do something completely different today. I know that the Halloween season is over with, and I don't think I've ever spoken about this on the channel before, and that is real life creepy encounters that I've had when it comes to ghosts and things like that. You know, creepy things that have happened. Now, full disclosure, I don't believe in ghosts. You know, I don't think they exist. I'm more a scientific kind of person rather than a paranormal style person, but the stories are all out there. We've all had our experiences with the paranormal, with ghosts, with something that we believe may be there but isn't quite there. And I'm going to share a story today that I experienced when I was younger, and it might be creepy to you, but what I really want to get out of this video is creepy stories that you've had experiences with, and I want you to share them down below as well. Now, I'll maybe treat this as a movie corner episode because I've not really done that many movie corner episodes on my channel lately. So this is going to be a creepy episode of just real life experiences that we've had. Now, before I get into the experiences that I've had two experiences, and it was the same year that it happened. I was about 21 or 22 years old when it happened, so I wasn't just a child and I wasn't making it up and I wasn't imagining it. These things happened to me and I'll explain those, but I want to tell you a story about my mum, or my mom, something that happened to her when I was younger, and it always stuck with me because it scared the life out of me when she told me the story. I don't know why she told me the story because it was very scary and I was just a child at the time. Years ago, must have been about when I was 6 or 7 years old, me and my sister were in our bedroom, in the living room I should say, and we were just colouring in. Now, I don't remember this day, but my mum told me about it when I was younger. But me and my sister were just colouring in, and my mum was in the kitchen. Now, we lived at the time on a one-level house, so the living room was next door to the kitchen, and then there was a long hallway all the way to the very end to the front door. So me and my sister were in the living room at the far end, and my mum was making the dinner, and she saw somebody running past the kitchen. The kitchen didn't have a door, it was just an open plan kitchen. So somebody ran past the kitchen door and she thought it was my sister, Kelly. So she shouted to Kelly, "Kelly, don't run around." And Kelly, just being Kelly herself, she's 2 years older than me, she just shouted, "Okay, mum," and that was it. So we just continued colouring in, and then it ran past again, and she's like, "Kelly, don't run around." And Kelly said, "I wasn't running around, I'm in the living room with Barry." Me. And my mum said, "Okay." And then it happened again. This is over the space of a couple of minutes. So my mum came marching into the living room and she started shouting at my sister saying, "I told you to stop running around." So my sister said, "I wasn't running around, I was here." And she was about 8 years old at the time, so she didn't have a clue what my mum was talking about. And my mum said, "Right, okay." But as my mum turned around and she looked down the very end of the hallway, she saw a little girl. So she tells me. Again, I don't believe in ghosts, but at the time I believed what my mum said. And maybe my mum genuinely saw something, you know, never say never. But she said she turned round and she saw a little girl at the end of the hall, and she just disappeared. And at that point, my mum got really spooked for all the rest of the years that we lived there. She said that other things happened, and I've got so many stories, but I won't bore you with all of those. But that was one story that really hit me hard, and the reason it did was because as an adult now, looking back, obviously it was a scary experience for my mum, but with the dawn of the internet, I researched people who lived in my house before me, and I read, and this was true, a little girl and her grandmother, it was just the two of them that lived in our house before us, and the house, they died in a fire in our house. And another thing to back that up is my big brother, who's 10 years older than me, he used to deliver papers around the houses, and he delivered papers to my house before we lived there, and he said that an old lady lived there. He didn't know the girl lived there, but he said an old lady lived there. So it just kind of confirms that an old lady and a little girl died in a fire in our house, and maybe 10, 15, 20 years later we moved in, and that's what my mum saw. So it's quite creepy. I just wanted to tell you that story because that story always stuck with me because it was just so scary. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why I love horror movies, because I get told scary stories when I was younger, and if I didn't get told scary stories, I was watching scary movies, so I just kind of loved horror at the time. But anyway guys, let's take a drink and get into my 2 scary stories. Now these stories aren't as long as my mum's, but I'll tell them anyway. Now the first of my scary stories was that, and this was quite scary because it happened during the day and I wasn't expecting it. Now I lived in a house exactly the same as this, because I literally lived round the corner from where I live right now, years ago. So the house was the exact same as this. This wasn't the bedroom, but it was a bedroom next door. So I was in my bedroom and I was on the internet, the slow dial-up internet, and I was just looking online for whatever. And I was waiting on my sister again. I was waiting on my sister coming with her husband, because she was going to drive us out to the shops and we were going to do a little bit of shopping. So I was just waiting for her to come, and I was just browsing the internet or whatever, and I heard a noise in the next room, and it sounded like this. So, do you know, it kind of reminded me of the Poltergeist 2, man. But this person cleared their throat and started humming. Nobody else was in the house apart from myself, and I was just waiting for my sister to come. And it's quite a big house, and the windows were closed, so there was nobody outside. And you can tell if someone's outside or inside, but this was literally right next door to me, and it sounded like somebody humming. So the good thing is, at that point, my sister arrived and chapped the front door, which gave me a fright. And as soon as I heard that noise, I jumped downstairs. We've got like 16 or so steps to go downstairs, and I think I only reached one of the steps because I just jumped all the way down and ran out the house. Told my sister about it. You know, I was kind of laughing about it because I told her I thought I heard that noise, but I genuinely believe that the noise and the person humming came from next door, right next in the other bedroom. That's my mum and dad's bedroom at the time, and it was just so scary. And again, as a 22-year-old, I was thinking logically, and I thought it couldn't have been somebody next door. Surely the window was opened and it was somebody outside or whatever. But when I came home, I went into the bedroom, and I swear the windows were closed, they were locked. There's no way that I would have heard someone hum and clear their throat as clear as I did. If it was someone outside, you just wouldn't hear it as clear as that. And I'm thinking to myself, was it maybe on my laptop? Was it something that was playing in the background that I just thought? And it might have been. Obviously it's a good 18 years ago now, 17 years ago, 16 years ago. So I just don't know. I physically don't know. And because I don't believe in ghosts, I have to think there is a logical explanation as to what happened. But because I don't have that answer, it's always going to be a mystery to me. Now let's move on to the second one, and this is the scariest one because it physically left me shaking. Now apologies guys, I don't have any videos in this or pictures or whatever. It's just my face that you're seeing all the way through this video, so apologies for that. But my second one was the scariest one for me because it happened at night time. Now again, I was still 22 years old. It was still probably the same few weeks that this happened to me, which was quite freaky in itself because I thought maybe something's going on here that I don't know about. As I was only 22, I didn't move out until I was 23. I was 23 years old when I moved away from my parents. But this was the final year anyway. Maybe this is one of the reasons for it. But I was in my bed. Now before I went to bed, and again I think this might be one of the reasons why this was happening to me, I was on the internet again and I was browsing, I was reading horrible articles about serial killers and watching videos about the Amityville horror and things. So I already freaked myself out, and I'm trying to think that this might be my excuse for believing what was happening to me when it maybe wasn't. I was reading about Charles Manson and the Manson murders this night. This is completely clear to me because I'll never forget this night. I was reading about the Manson murders and specific details as to what was happening. Very scary. Real life stuff is scarier than fake stuff. But I was reading about it and I was shaking. I was left shaking from what happened that night back in the 60s. So anyway, after that I went to bed. Light was off, went to bed. And you've probably felt this before, but I had the covers over me and I was lying on my side and I just felt like there was someone behind me. Like, you can almost as if the covers were getting touched, but not quite. And I was like, feels like something's behind me. So I was obviously shrugging to get it off, even though there was nothing there apparently. But I was just moving just to see if that feeling just went away. But it didn't. Pretend that this here is my head and this is my back. It felt like something was coming closer to my neck, at the back of my neck. And you know the saying in The Sixth Sense, the little boy says, you know the prickly things you get in the back of your neck, that's them. It just felt like that on the back of my neck. So I started to move around and cough and go, just in case it was somebody there, maybe my mum, my dad, my brother, because there was 4 of us living in the house at the time. And it just wouldn't go away. And I was like, what? And it got to a point where honestly it felt like it was here on me, like the grudge or something. So I just jumped up out my bed, put the light on, and this is me as a 22-year-old. I put the light on and sat up for the rest of the night. It must have been about 3 in the morning. Oh, the witching hour. It must have been about 3 in the morning, and I just sat up for the rest of the night. And ironically, because I couldn't sleep, I went on my laptop and just started reading about horror stuff again. So I lived and breathed horror at the time, and I still do, obviously. But I'm thinking, if I'm trying to think logically, that's the reason that I felt what I felt, because I just scared myself to the point where I felt like something was there. But again, if you're a believer of ghosts, if you're a believer of the something else, the unexplainable, then this story might resonate with you, because maybe it's happened to you before. I don't want to diminish or rubbish anything that may have happened to people in the past, or it is happening to people just now. I'm just not a believer, but that doesn't mean nothing exists out with what we are just now. But I suppose the reason for this video and the stories that I'm telling is I just want to tell you that not only do we have horror on screen, you know, things have happened to us that we believe may be a little bit unexplainable. And I want you to discuss that down below. What things have happened to you that it makes you think there's a little bit more to life than what we are just now? What do you think of the stories that I've told? Would they scare you? Has anything similar happened to you in the past? I'd like to know. And that's the reason for this movie corner, the segment of the movie corner, because we don't just talk about, well, we do talk about horror, and this is horror, but we don't just talk about movies. Let's talk about real life. What's happened to me? What's happened to you in real life? Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. We'll get a discussion going down below. It doesn't just have to be directed at me. Talk to each other down below. Read each other's comments and comment on it, because I'm sure there's going to be more than one person that's had a similar experience to someone else. So leave your comments down below. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.